Millions were watching, but no one expected the First Lady to collapse after Jasmine Crockett calmly exposed what others spent years trying to hide. Could hear the air shift when Representative Jasmine Crockett walked into the chamber that morning. It wasn't just the usual buzz of a high-stakes hearing. It felt heavier, sharper, like something was about to break. It was a humid Tuesday in July, with the sun already blazing over Springfield, Missouri, where watch parties were forming in cafes and break rooms across the state. Inside the Capitol in D.C., however, things were icy tense. Chairs squeaked, coughs echoed to phones, where off-cameras were rolling. This was the kind of broadcast no one wanted to miss. Crockett didn't come in with a swarm of aides. Just one assistant trailed behind her, carrying a sleek brown folder. No grand entrance, no fanfare, but people noticed she wore dark blue, no jewelry, no frills, just that signature calm stare, the kind that tells you she didn't come to speculate, she came to lay it down. Across the chamber, former President Donald Trump sat quietly with his legal team. His face was unreadable, but his foot tapped fast under the table, a tell you probably didn't know was visible to the cameras on the second row of the public gallery. First Lady Melania Trump, still holding the title years into her husband's return bid for the presidencia, seated next to a senior campaign advisor. She hadn't appeared at a live hearing in months. Her presence alone spoke volumes. The chairman called the session to order. One by one, the committee members gave their opening remarks, half rehearsed, half forced, but when Jasmine's name was called, every shifted. Even the chairman leaned back slightly, like he wanted distance. Jasmine stood in a script in front of her, just that folder. She let a few seconds pass before she spoke, just enough to let the weight settle. Mr. Chairman, I request that the committee review Exhibit 1919A, which I've just submitted to the clerk, detailing undisclosed financial activity involving former President Trump and an overseas account registered in the Isle of Man. The room froze. Senator Camden, a longtime Trump loyalist from Nebraska, narrowed his eyes. Are you alleged? This was done during his time in office, he snapped. I'm not alleging anything. Jasmine replied, her voice steady, presenting dated documentation, signed transactions, and cross-referenced wire transfers to an account created just 12 days before. Executive Order 14209, the one that redirected over $3.2 billion in foreign infrastructure holdings. Gasps weren't dramatic today. They were real human people. Looked around, unsure if they'd misheard. Jasmine walked over to the monitor where the document appeared behind her. There, it was a scanned PDF. Signature, a date, and account name matching a shell corporation traced to a private equity firm in Luxembourg. Notice the routing number listed here corresponds with a Deutsche Bank office in Zurich. She continued, flipping to the next pageant. The recipient is a trust held under the name KRD Holdings. L. Twitch, according to registration filings, is administratively controlled by none other than Mr. Jared Racina, longtime financial advisor to Mr. Trump. All of it was now part of the public record, but back in the gallery, Melania wasn't watching the screen. Her eyes were locked on Jasmine, her lips pressed together so tight they lost their color. The camera caught it just for a second. Blinked rapidly, her hand moved toward her throat. The assistant beside her leaned in, whispering something, but she didn't respond. Down in the chamber, Trump's lawyer leaned toward his client and whispered something sharp. Trump didn't move, his foot tapped faster. Still Jasmine didn't raise. Her voice didn't gloat. She let the documents speak. The committee has a responsibility to determine whether this financial activity was used to influence policy during Mr. Trump's presidency, and if so, whether any laws were broken or public trust compromised. For a moment there was dead silence. See no coughs, no whispers. Then something changed behind Jasmine. Commotion. The camera swiveled just in time to catch Melania gripping the side of her chair. Her hand trembled, her face lost all expression. She mouthed something, it looked like stop, before slumping forward. People leapt to their feet. Reporters in the back shouted. Chairman called for order. Security and medical personnel rushed the gallery. The feed did not cut away. The First Lady had collapsed a bit. Jasmine didn't flinch. She gently closed the folder, stepped back, and said, Mr. Chairman, yield the floor once emergency personnel have attended to Mrs. Trump. It took 9 minutes for paramedics to reach the chamber gallery. In that time, the entire room operated in two realistic zone, reacting to Melania's collapse, the other staring at the frozen screen, showing financial documents with Her husband's signature front and center, Jasmine Crockett, stood still through it all. Hands folded, eyes steady. She wasn't being defiant. She was waiting outside. Networks scrambled to manage. The photo crew producers screamed in control rooms. Pundits who were mid-sentence froze as the footage looped. Melania faintings, lumping into the arms of her assistant, and Jasmine standing like a wall inside the room, cleared a small path as medical staff moved swiftly. Melania's pulse was stable. She regained consciousness just as they rolled a chair toward her. No stretcher, she whispered. That part wasn't picked up by the mics. But her refusal to be carried was. Trump didn't rise. His lawyer leaned in again, murmuring, "Should ask for a recess." Trump looked straight ahead, not yet at the podium. Jasmine adjusted the missive. "It pleases the chair," she said calmly. "I'd like to finish presenting the contents of Exhibit O and 19 for the record while the medical team concludes care." The chairman hesitated, then gave a small nod. "Proceed." Screen blinked. A new slide came up, a chart showing cross-border wire transfers between a Las Vegas holding company and a Luxembourg financial firm. It looked like something out of a fraud case. A thick red line connected the dates and amounts these transfers. Jasmine said, gesturing, occurred on March 7th, 8th, and 10th, the same 3 days. Mr. Trump's calendar shows him attending classified briefings on us. Infrastructure disbursements. Senator Camden leaned forward again. "You're accusing a former president of leveraging national policy for personal financial gain." "No," Jasmine said, "I'm showing this committee publicly available documents and asking why no one has asked him that question." At that, a buzz, not from phones, which were still off, but in the minds of everyone in that room. She wasn't speculating. She was pointing out a hole so big you could drive a convoy through it. The screen flicked to another slide. An internal memo from 2019, subject line, cross-channel. Holding structure at the bottom of the email thread, initials DT, and a single word reply, "Approved this." Time. Trump blinked back in the gallery. Melania was sitting up, sipping water. Her hand shook as she held the cup. Her eyes weren't on the screen now. They were locked on her husband. Some passed over her face. Confusion, maybe, or recognition. One aide leaned over, whispering in her ear. She didn't respond, just slowly set the cup down. Jasmine continued, him also submitting this memo into the record. It outlines how subsidiary holdings were created under KRD Holdings in a way that obscures the direct beneficiaries. That's legal, but what's questionable is the timing. Memo is dated exactly 1 week before federal tax code revisions were signed into law. Again, cameras caught several committee members flipping through pages they hadn't looked at closely until now. One Congresswoman whispered to her colleague, "Did we even get a brief on this folder before?" Today shook his head outside the chamber. Social media was a wildfire. The hashtag Crockett Truth Storm